Hi, this is Olivia Darbo, and you're listening to the FSF podcast.
The show that makes you wonder how we've been on the airwaves for 2 years.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 109. She'll know that when she puts on the red shirt and joins Black Widow and the Avengers to confront the alien menace, that she didn't leave her family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has her back, and what's left of her handguns.
All right, so our guest today is an actress and a voiceover talent that's been entertaining people for some time. We're excited to talk with her, not just because of her work on shows like The Wonder Years and Star Wars Clone Wars, which is a big one for me always, but because she's also going to be coming as one of the featured stars at the Monroe Pop Fest here in Monroe, Michigan on September 16th and 17th. There are still tickets available. You'll be able to, we'll put a link down in the comments below, and you can get tickets to come meet her and say hello to the awesome Olivia Diabo. And we are so glad to welcome her here to the FSF podcast. Welcome to the show, Olivia.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are very excited to talk to you tonight.
So, Olivia, before we talk about Monroe Pops, anything super cool like Star Wars, because I'm a nerd, or anything else, we're excited to talk to you about a couple of the upcoming projects that you have that we'd like to our listeners and our viewers to know about. So if you would, take a few moments and walk us through your new upcoming projects. I believe one's called Traveling Light and the other one's called Bandit.
Yeah, so Traveling Light is already out in certain states. I actually just got a letterhead the other day from Bernard Rose, who's the director of the film, and we did this film saying, that it was going to be coming out in some of the other major cities. So New York, it's about to come out, and Minneapolis and Chicago, and so more in the areas that you guys are in, and near where the Monroe Pop Festival will be in. It's a great film. It's the first improvisational film that I have ever been part of, and I felt very comfortable because I'd worked with Bernard Rose before. He's an amazing filmmaker, both in the horror genre and pretty much anything. He can do anything. And we were in great company with Danny Houston, who's also in the film, and Stephen Dorff, who he plays my husband in it, and Tony Todd, who's an exceptional actor, and
Nice.
a slew of really, really talented, amazing actors. And, basically, I just got this phone call one day in the middle of COVID, and Bernard said, when I'm thinking of doing this film, about COVID and how the very wealthy deal with it and the not so very wealthy, as well as the homeless, And he's like, this is your character that I'm thinking that you're going to play. And I'm sort of thinking she might be a little bit like so-and-so, who is somebody that I knew. And I said, okay. He said, except the roles will be reversed. You'll be her husband, and he'll be playing you, of the person that we knew who was a couple. And so that was kind of a little bit of a thing I had to wrap my head around. But, it was an amazing experience. It really is about COVID, what transpired in Los Angeles during the onslaught of COVID, and definitely when we were in lockdown, how wealthy people, everybody has been affected by COVID. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of money, if you don't have any money, or if you're in the middle ground somewhere. It's really an improvised film about just emotionally what it brings up in everybody, and how it affects people's thresholds, and how they need to have escapism from it, and forget that it's not really there, or the people that kind of can't escape it because they're not in a position to. But it's actually funny. It's suspenseful, and at times, I'd say it's a little bit of a dark comedy, if you will. And I think luckily we've had enough time pass where I think viewers are ready to kind of see it in the right light. I think it would have been a little bit too soon if it had come out, not too soon after we shot it. But I think we're in a different place now. It was 2 years ago. So, and it's got an incredible soundtrack, and it's just a really, really well-made film. And I had so much fun just leaning back on the experience that I've had as an actor for a number of years now, just to trust that if you do all your homework and you know who your character is, and you trust that you have the experience to have lines come out of your head, even though you don't know what they're going to be, that you're going to be okay. So it's a little bit like diving off a cliff, but you know there's a trampoline underneath you. And having a great filmmaker to work with and an amazing surrounding cast really supports that.
Yeah, it sounds like a very interesting experience, especially, when you're having to come up with your own lines. The improv aspect, to me, I think for many people, not having been part of that world particularly, for me, that would be like, oh, so you want me to say that? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would have thought, is it would kind of have gone like that. The thing is that because it all happened so organically with all of the actors, that nobody was really sort of stepping on each other's lines. We would just sort of, Bernard would say, okay, your call time is 9:00 and you're going to arrive at this address off Mulholland. And, Stephen Dorff is going to be in a closet somewhere in the house, so you're going to have to find him. And he's probably going to have a girl on his lap. So as his wife, it's your decision as to how you want to deal with it. And I'm just
excellent. Okay.
He's like, come makeup and hair ready. You want to wear the same outfit that you were wearing, last week, because this is the same evening. And I just drove to this house. This was the second scene that I did in the film. And, I did have to kind of walk through this house I'd never been in. Lo and behold, to find, my husband in the movie. And, we're having kind of a tumultuous relationship, and he's an ex-addict, but he's a recovering addict, but he's kind of fallen off the wagon, and he's an ex-tennis player. Mm-hmm. And our relationship is very, I would say, codependent. I just love him to death, but, it's a very real marriage. And what I love about the film is the relationships. These actors have all been in these kinds of relationships, so we kind of knew under turmoil and stress and pressure with COVID how it would, evoke us to be a certain way, because we were really living COVID.
It sounds exciting. It sounds interesting, though. I love the show up at this house, hair and makeup ready, wearing the same outfit you wore last week. That's
and go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I've never done before, where I it just trust. I mean, it's great at this stage in my career to have an opportunity to work with such fine actors and have it be about the experience rather than, a paycheck or something that's going to maybe get extreme visibility. This was really a great experience. So I think the viewers, people who will watch it in theaters, will get that from it.
Now, that was Traveling Light, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So tell us a little bit about Bandit as well.
So Bandit is a super cool, suspenseful, I would say, it reminds me a little bit of The Fugitive, that film with Harrison Ford.
Nice.
It's on the run. It's very suspenseful. Josh Duhamel is amazing in it. He plays the bandit, and it's actually a true story about, it all takes place in Canada in the 80s. And this is a true story of this man who gets out of jail. And when he gets out of jail, he gets a mate of his to sort of pick him up and take him across the border. And he doesn't have any money, and he has to kind of start his life again. And he comes from a sort of a corrupt, family, and his dad was, a criminal. So he was like a juvenile delinquent. So he grows up to kind of be a bandit, basically, and he decides to rob these banks. And he gets away with, I think he must have robbed about 250 banks, maybe 300 through Ontario and all through Canada. And what's amazing about the way he did it is he got away with it because he was always in a disguise. He found this kind of dress up shop with, he wears everything from clown suits to dressing up as women to, looking like Burt Reynolds with a mustache to, you name it, he covers the gamut. He's also in a relationship and about expecting a baby, so he's under pressure to make money. I play Mel Gibson's wife, and Mel Gibson is a bookie, an ex-boxer, and we kind of do our business our faux business as a strip club, but what's really going on behind closed doors is, that he's a bookie, and there's quite a lot of people who owe us money. So I'm the sort of matriarchal bartender there, and I'm sort of, there's a clan of us, who all work together, and we're running a business. So he and Josh Duhamel's character end up doing business together, and I sort of suss Josh Duhamel out at the bar first, and then he and Mel get together. And so that's the relationship kind of between Mel and Josh, who's the bandit, and we're kind of giving him money to go and rob these banks. Then he has to pay us back. So we're like his loan sharks, so to speak, so that he can kind of rob these banks successfully.
Interesting.
And Nesta Cabanel's in it. Alicia Colhart is in it, and she's wonderful. And there's a lot of new up-and-coming talent who you'll see in the film. And I hear it really, really turned out well. So I'm looking forward to seeing it on the 21st of September, but it's out in theaters on the 23rd.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Both of those movies have very good casts in them. So
They sure do. And, the thing about COVID that's interesting, I think, is that for a while there, I think, and I think it's still very much the same as we kind of reacclimate to this new world that we're living in, that's changed at such a rapid pace. We've had to be so malleable. And I think the movie business has had to be just as malleable, think outside of the box. A lot of what people are drawn to is escapism, right? They want to see Game of Thrones or those kind of shows that go back in time, so that it's a journey. They like journey films. Or what's great about Bandit is it was in the 80s, and I think a lot of people, it's a nostalgic time. It's when I shot The Wonder Years, for example. But the 80s in Toronto, there was a blackout, and we used that. The whole of Canada was blacked out with no electricity for a substantial amount of time. So it's great for me, it's always been great as an actor to do period films, though the 80s doesn't seem like it was that far away, and we kind of remember it more for like the music we grew up with, and the shoulder pads and all of that. But at this stage in 2022 or 2021, when we shot it, it was it didn't seem that far away, but yet it was like, oh yeah, that was a really long time ago, sort of thing.
Understood.
Like a real like just a kind of a two-sided coin. And using Georgia to make it look like Canada was also a really super cool challenge, I think, for all of us. And we're sort of all dressed like bikers, really. The Mel Gibson and my character and our clan of are sort of we have some guys, our henchmen, who work for us. So we're all
Yeah, I'm
It
looking
is-
forward
it
to
is
seeing
funny.
that. That sounds good.
It is funny that 80s and 90s based movies have now become period pieces, though.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, nostalgia, I think, is what is so popular right now. And understandably, I think that we need content that reminds us of where we came from, or when we were thriving, so that we can have a rebirth, if you will, to continue on. I mean, that's sort of what how our history serves us,
Yeah. It is that kind of that going home to feel safe again, sort of.
Exactly, and there's this really super cool scene with me and Mel where we're in the bar and we're watching Boy George singing, come a, chameleon. And it's all the whole MTV thing when that was started.
That's so great.
And it's so cool that we get to actually, like a time capsule in a film, cinematically cover how somebody like Mel Gibson's character, who's he's a bookie, an ex-boxer, he's looking at a guy like Boy George, thinking, who is this guy in a dress, and of course it's totally normal now for some people, and it's socially acceptable, and if you said anything au contraire about it, you'd be kicked out of the place. So historically, it's just interesting to see how we've captured human behavior. For example, in this film, and the span of time of 30 years or so, that how we've evolved since then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the cool aspects of the film as well.
That's really cool. So thinking about going back, and one of the questions that we like asking a lot on this show is about your backstory. So what is your origin story? What got you into the performing arts, and what keeps you going as an artist?
Quite a few things. I think luckily I was born into a very creative, I wouldn't say showbiz family, but I mean, I suppose ultimately my dad was a musician, singer-songwriter in a really famous rock band, and my mom was a model, and she did these movies like Hard Day's Night and 2001 Space Odyssey, and my dad wrote some really great songs like Build Me Up Buttercup and for the Foundations, and
Oh, cool.
I love this.
and yeah, it's a great song. And Handbags and Glad Rags for Rod Stewart, who I just saw in concert. He was amazing. He's 78 and he's like, he looks exactly the same, sounds exactly the same. So energetic on stage, so lovely. I did a spectacular tribute to the Ukraine, on one of the songs. So he's like a very, very socially aware guy, as well as, singing his greatest hits. And then lo and behold, he ended up singing Handbags and Glad Rags. So I got kind of weepy, and I videotaped it. I was with my cousin and we sent it to my dad, because we thought he'd get a kick out of it. So those were my parents. And, the thing that gave me the bug really was seeing my dad on stage when I was about 4 years old, 4 or 5, actually 7. He was doing a show called Gulliver's Travels. And I've told this story many times, so I don't want to sound redundant for those who've seen other interviews that I've done. But what gave me the bug is because he was my dad, and you look up to your parents until they're taken off the pillar, which may or may not happen. Hopefully it doesn't. But, he was playing Gulliver, and he came through the exit doors and shining an apple on his lapel, and he started walking up on stage, and it was my 7th birthday party, and I was there with all my friends and my grandmother, and I just got out of my seat and walked right up with him, following him up the stairs on the stage, didn't think anything of it. And he's like, "No, you've got to sit down. There's a whole audience here. We're doing a performance." And I was like, "I want to be up here, Daddy. I want to be up here with you. And I want to be in the play too." And I was looking out at all these people just like, "Wow, this is incredible. And look at all my friends and his grandpa." And he's like, "I'll bring you up after, but you got to go sit down now." And I was like, "Okay," sat through the whole performance, was totally mesmerized, and literally he did bring me and all my friends up on stage afterwards. But I think that's what planted the seed for me, because it was just a spiritual experience, seeing a parent play a character, entertain these people, lots of laughter from the audience, and just seeing that give and take immediacy, that dance that you get from live theater. So that's what kind of made me decide to be an actor. I was studying at the Royal Ballet, so I was getting dance training, and my first show that I did was at the Albert Hall, a thing called Me and My Teddy Bear, a bunch of little girls with their big teddy bears sort of dancing around the stage. That enhanced the bug. And then when I got to Taos, New Mexico, I was about 9. We moved there from England, and I just started participating in school plays. Then in junior high, we moved to LA, and I started participating in Shakespeare contests and got an agent, did a McDonald's commercial, and then, got cast in my first film at 14. So that's kind of how it went.
That's so
very cool.
Yeah.
So we all have a little piece of something that we all hold dear to our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that you like to hold dear to your heart, or a project that you have worked on that is just really close to your heart?
Well, the thing that I hold dearest to my heart is family. Family is everything, especially through this experience of COVID. I think I hadn't seen my family for 3 years, and it was really hard. And when I did see them all, and I flew back, my uncle actually wasn't well, and he was I got back there 10 hours before he passed. But I knew I had to get back there to pay my respects to him. And that's very important to me as a person too. If there's people who've shown up in your life, that you have to give back, and you have to let them know what an impact they had on your life, and that they've left a legacy behind in you and their impression in you. And that's therefore had a part of what gives you your character and what choices you make as a human being from there on out. So family is everything. And your word, one's word is everything. If you can't hold somebody worthy of their word, then, what do you have? So, that's really important. I think integrity, honesty, and a great sense of humor. And, the Wonder Years is something will always ring true for me, and had a huge influence on because I grew up on that show. So the people around me, they're kind of like my second family. So I would consider that within the topic of what we're discussing, just all of the experiences that we shared and the lessons on set, on the episodes, as well as offset, how we all had each other's back and still do. And that's, for me, that's honor.
That's awesome.
Honor, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love that. All right. So, Olivia, prior to doing the research for this interview, I was unaware of the extensive back catalog work that you had in the voice side of things. Now, I was aware of Star Wars Clone Wars, your work there with Luminara, Unduli, and as the Jedi Master. But I thought it was really cool as I was going through this. I saw that there was Star Sapphire for DC. There was Black Widow for Marvel. There's you had roles on Invader Zim. There's Medal of Honor, Elder Scrolls, and I could keep going and going and going. But there's so much there. So, in addition to your on-screen acting performances, what is it about voice acting that you enjoy, and how did you get into voice acting?
Oh, well, that's such a great question. Thank you for asking. I got into voiceover about 20 years ago, which is a good time, because not many actors were actually thinking, oh, I want to try this out. And I was with an agency at the time called Special Artists, and I'd always been good at doing characters and voices, doing mimicry and dialects. Luckily I was born with, and I got that from my dad, from the Davos side of the family. And the only way that I would ever get a word in edgewise actually was to mimic somebody, because Davos, my family, we all talk at the same time. And it's because either we have serious ADD or something, but we're all so worried that we're going to forget what's on our mind that we all just start talking at the same time. Like, oh, I want to tell you what happened to me yesterday. Oh, really? What do you want? Let me tell you what's done. Me. And so nice. I go like, how am I going to slice this pie? So, I'd say, oh, I can do Auntie Betty. Oh, well, hello, my name's Auntie Betty. And I'd start doing my impersonation of Auntie Betty at the table. Isn't that funny, everybody? And they'd say, yeah, that's really, I'd suddenly hear silence. And they go, do you know what? That's bloody good. Well done. So it's like, I won some points. There was some silence. I got to get a word in edgewise. That's kind of what got me into mimicry, dialects, and that sort of thing. And also because I thought, being an artist, a voiceover artist, an actor, a musician, I paint, I do. I love anything artistic. And so I think as an artist, it's sort of very important that you're well-rounded, because ultimately it just makes you a better artist, and you will therefore have a longevity to your career. And I found through voiceover acting, the more of it that I did and the more challenging things that were handed to me, like, Minnie the Spoon. I went to Hanna-Barbera and they gave me a list with pictures of animated characters that were inanimate objects. And so I had to give Minnie the Spoon, who's a spoon, a voice that spoke to me to bring her alive. And, or a 12-year-old prepubescent boy, kind of talk like that. For my
You've heard my nephew. Okay. All right.
So, what I discovered, which is so cool about it and fulfilling, is that I realized that the epicenter of where a character comes from is that's a choice that you make. And when you do voiceover acting, it's just your voice. So you have to find every single way you can bring that character alive without facial expressions, but from your voice. And so it just was a great challenge. And ultimately, it helped me, I think, become a better actor, because I've now approached my acting with all of that experience of voiceover work, where it's just given my voice more gravitas, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So with the voiceover and the not getting typecast, because you have so many different options, you have so many different talents on your plate that you can do. You can do screen acting, you can do stage acting, you can do music, you can do voiceover. You have managed to not be typecast in any of your roles from what I've looked at, which is spectacular. But are there any of your roles that you'd like to revisit at another stage in that character's life?
Yes, definitely Amanda Rogers from Star Trek, because she is such a pure soul with clairvoyance. So I love that I've somehow attracted, characters like Luminara, who's a Jedi, and Amanda Rogers, who's clairvoyant, and she's a Q, so she's got these omnipotent powers. I think any of the characters that I've played that are clairvoyant, for me, you can go back to them because they're always going to sort of have that kind of same fiber that will ignite something really fun and exciting to play. Just there's always more choices because, you're just tapping into that they're otherworldly. So they have all of these, there's more space for those kind of people. I mean, if you've met people who are a little bit psychic or clairvoyant, or they have a special power or sixth sense, you meet them and there's something different about them, which really intrigues me. So I would say Amanda Rogers, even though she was a sociopath, she was also kind of otherworldly, but Nicole Wallace, definitely. Just because she's such a brilliant, smart, she's 10 steps ahead of everybody else and uses, because she's a sociopath, I think that those kind of people are born with almost like it's the equivalent of like a Q, really. They've got that sixth sense, so they have the ability to be 10 steps ahead of you, finishes your sentences for you, read everybody in the room while saying nothing, but already knowing how things are going to end. And so that's fun to play. And she's a woman and she's powerful. So I liked that role very much. I loved Jane in Kicking and Screaming. I'd love to revisit her, just because Noah Baumbach's so fun to work with, and Josh Hamilton and Parker Posey, like all the Eric Stoltz, those guys were all amazing. It was his first film, and she was a sweet character, very brainy, kind of nerdy character for me. And I think Garthette in Wayne's World 2 would be so fun to revisit.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
She's such a naughty in a naughty place. She's kind of got this like overbite, which I kind of use my own overbite, and she just was so in love with Garth.
Oh God, I love that.
Like her hands in her pockets and just kind of like. So you coming back to the permit office, kind of got this surfer thing going, and those kind of roles, it's like you can't dream them up, and those opportunities, hopefully will still continue to come. I mean, they sort of are, but as one gets older and life changes, you keep drawing new things to you that are still within your essence, but it changes. Actually, I think it gets better. It's exciting because you're a deeper person, you've got more wisdom, so you've got more to say as an actor. But those are the ones I think I'd love to revisit.
It's funny, when I was preparing that question, Amanda Rogers was actually one of them that I'm like, that would be a fun throwback. That would be fun to go back to.
For sure.
She's crazy.
Yeah. And she's an orphan, it's very, it's great to get the opportunities to play these people that we meet every day and say, I'm going to take a little bit of her, because I sat down with her for a 20-minute conversation once, and I may never see her again, but she had an impact on me. And for actors, that's very important. And so we need as much experience as we can to draw from to regurgitate back into our work.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but we absolutely love stories. And one of the stories that we love to hear are the stories that happen on set that are specific to our guest. So what was either something that you thought was amazing at how it was filmed, or a funny moment that has just really stuck with you?
Well, I remember Kirk Douglas in Greedy having so much fun in his wheelchair that he ran a couple people over for real because they kind of got in the way. And, you know, and he was pretty irreverent about it. He's like, get out of the way. It's too bad I hit you. I told you, get out of the way. You know?
They were warned.
And then on one particular occasion, I was on his lap in the wheelchair before we were going up on the, you know, the lift, you know, when Michael J. Fox and I were really like in that tete-a-tete, and it was like, who's going to get Uncle Joe's money? And everybody thought that I was after his money. But in actuality, at the end, you find out that I wasn't. But in that particular scene where I'm in that ridiculous costume, that's like the mesh with a bikini underneath it, you know, I say, let's go upstairs, and everybody kind of drops there. So I get on his lap and I got on this thing, and this, I never knew a wheelchair could go so fast. I mean, it was just, he was flooring it like he had his, you know, his foot to the pedal, and I swore we were going 100 miles an hour. And he's like, yeah, we're going to run over crafts and services. Get out of the way. That's too bad. I told you, get out of the way. That's his fault. Too bad. You know. We got some casualties today. That was really a memorable moment because it was, you know, unfortunate for the people who might have got injured, but kind of funny.
Yeah, sucks to suck. All right.
Yeah, you know.
Those are funny.
Douglas tells you to get out of his way, you get out of his way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, speeding man in a wheelchair tells you to move, you move. It's you don't. That's
I've
on
had my foot run over by a wheelchair. It does not feel good.
No, it's absolutely,
you get out of the way.
You do, you know, and you almost like feel how it would feel before the actual, before you become a casualty of that wheelchair. So yeah, but some people didn't move out of the way quick enough.
There you go. And now a word from our sponsor. Since 1982, Vital Signs and Graphics has been helping professionals with all their image, logo, and design needs. Perhaps you're looking for signs and banners, truck and trailer lettering, business cards, brochures, or other image and marketing aids. Vital Signs and Graphics in-house design studio has you covered. From logos to apparel, start to finish, Vital Signs and Graphics has everything you need to look and feel professional. Call Rick at 231-652-3300. He'll get you noticed. Welcome back to the FSF Popcast. All right, Olivia, I got a quick question for you about Star Wars because as I've dropped little hints here and there, I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Yes.
And now I'm not at my normal recording studio today, but if I were, behind me is a massive backdrop of Funko Pops and other Star Wars memorabilia and all the things that I've collected over the years. So now in the Clone Wars and the Rise of Skywalker movie, you gave voice to Jedi Master Luminara Unduli.
Yes.
Now, so my question is, and I always like to ask this to people who were involved with Star Wars, were you a fan of the franchise before you started working in the franchise? And if so, what was your entry point into the fandom?
Well, I was a fan. Both my brother and I were fans of both Star Trek and Star Wars. And I think definitely by the time Empire Strikes Back came out, and, you know, as a kid, you just get the message that, you know, good versus evil, you know, it's the same thing really with Star Trek. It's, you know, both franchises very much have that message embedded in it's like a Bible. And I would go to school and, kids would have lightsabers. Sorry, I always say lifesavers, like it's a lifeboat.
Right.
But so, and Halloween would come, and everything was Star Wars, so it was unavoidable. And I loved Princess Leia. I just thought she was the bee's knees. I loved she wasn't a typical princess, but she was a very grounded, very smart, brainy, sassy young woman who was a fighter, and she could just take on anybody. So, that very powerful influence to a young female was very much because of Carrie Fisher for me. And obviously James Earl Jones playing Darth Vader, and Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, just all Chewbacca. I just wanted to take Chewbacca home. He was just the most. He was like Bigfoot, huge, not necessarily adorable in size, but adorable.
You just want to cuddle him.
Like you want to cuddle him, like just like a Muppet or something. I'm not sure who did his voice, but it was bang on and so memorable and embedded in all of our childhood's spirit. So by the time that's kind of how I got on board with being obsessed.
Yeah,
I like it. No, that's good. For me, I always tell this that Empire Strikes Back is my all-time favorite movie. So I'm always excited when somebody says, "Oh, my entry point was Empire," and I'm like, "Ooh, we got another. All right, there we go."
Yes. Yeah, something about that film. I think it was the landscapes and just the Ewoks and just it was all of the each film would churn out another new characters, little tribe of band of little mouse looking koala bears, or the jazz trumpet, the jazz quartet. I thought those guys were super cool. I just thought it was so innovative and talk about a journey experience movie. You go and you just get taken away, complete escapism, and just being in space. Who doesn't want to be in space?
right.
Absolutely. No, that's a great answer. Thank you.
I totally agree with the Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, because that was the same for me. I have always loved her. And then with the Obi-Wan series and then bringing in the young Leia and realizing how much young Leia is like my daughter, I'm like, oh yeah, my almost 4-year-old is going to grow up to be a general. I'm sure of it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I think in the 70s, the 80s, when these films were coming out, really important time for a young girl to see an idol like Carrie Fisher, who her personality came first rather than her beauty. I mean, she happens to be a very beautiful woman and was always beautifully dressed in those films, but it was her sass and her intelligence and her wisdom and how grounded she was and how strong. She could keep up with all the fellas and yet she was a gal, and so that was really very pivotal for me when I saw that. It was like, oh, well, I can be like that too. And it's personality first, especially when you're about to hit puberty or hitting puberty. We need those role models. They're very, very important for both women and men.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about role models and advice, like I said, I have an almost 4-year-old. She loves to play pretend. Sometimes she's a princess. Sometimes she's a Jedi. This afternoon, she was a pirate with a ukulele, which was pretty great. Sometimes the living room floor is suddenly made of lava, or she turns on lasers in our kitchen. Like there's suddenly like a laser grid across the kitchen floor, and you have to bounce over those. And she's amazing. She's absolutely a wonder of a child. And I don't want to squash that creativity. but instead I am trying to find every way to encourage her. So what advice would you give to other potential actors, musicians, and creatives in general that, looking back, you wish you had known from the beginning?
I was always a very curious kid, and it sounds like your daughter is. I was never afraid to constantly ask questions, no matter if people rolled their eyes and thought I should know that already, or I just wanted to know what everything is. And I'm still like that because, I'm still living, I'm still growing, I'm still evolving, and I'll be that way till I take my last breath. So I think for kids, and whether you're a kid and you become an actor, or whether you're a young actor aspiring to choose that as your field, I think there's a boldness and a curiosity and a whimsical, childlike thing that you never want to let go of, because that is what you require to have a successful career, to book jobs, to ultimately have this choice of a career, which is a difficult business to enter into. But if you can not take things too personally and stay amused and curious, and you know what, I didn't get that job and it wasn't about that they rejected me, it's because I stood in my truth and I gave my authenticity and my personalization of how I saw the character. Then you can never be let down, because you can't say, oh well, I did what my coach told me to do, or I know that they're looking for this kind of type, so I'm going to play into that. No, always stay true to the first intuition and feeling that you get about the first hit you get when you read something, or somebody that impresses you, that's genuinely, they're affecting you, like they're touching your soul, and kids are like that too. Like, oh, I want to be like so-and-so. That's where idols come from.
Right.
And I think that we can be idols to other people if we're people like your daughter is, setting things up in the living room. And, though it requires us to adapt and tread on things a little bit more carefully, or maybe the living room's a little bit more messy, so be it. You're giving her the freedom to relish and exercise her spirit and her sense of self, and you're cheering her on, you're supporting her. I think kids need to be told they're right more than they're wrong, in little ways. You know what I mean? If your kid's really obviously needs a telling to, you have to do that too. But I think it's so important with kids, as you're raising them in whatever profession they want to go into, to encourage them and to say nice things, even if there's just even little things that they do. It's like, that was really a great thing that you said to Mrs. So-and-so, or I really liked how you listened to that, because it just makes a huge difference, and it gives them confidence. And in this day and age, the more confidence we have, the better suited we are for this world, I think, and for any
Excellent.
occupation we enter into.
I really agree with that. The more confidence you have, the more you are equipped for this world, because this world is going to try to smash every ounce of confidence out of you.
Yeah.
And if you need to make sure that you start out with a lot of it.
Yeah, you do. And, you also need to, with the confidence, you can start off with a lot of confidence, and then also be one of those people that if you're an incredibly sensitive person like I am, I'm very sensitive, but I'm also very strong. And so there's this constant dichotomy going on. I've had to really work on not taking things personally and just kind of sloughing them off. Well, that didn't happen. It's kind of, have a sense of humor about it, make the positive choice rather than the negative choice that might ultimately put you in a more self-deprecating light. Do you see what I mean? So
yeah, definitely.
Kind of learn how to be my own best friend that way. Where I go, well, what's going on right now is a choice. It's really everything's about energy, So if you if something is there's this discrepancy that's occurred, or something that's kind of, you could react very like, "Ah!" rather than that you have a choice to react like, "Ah!"
Right.
or okay, well, I'm gonna sort of sit and think about this for a while and see how it percolates, and once I calm down, then I will get in the ring with you, but I need to be calm first. Do you know what I mean? Because if I'm calm first, then my calmness will reflect on your mood, and then we can work it out. You have a better chance of working things out if both people aren't as combative.
Yeah.
Good
advice.
Yeah.
So we have a Facebook group. It has over 200,000 members in it. And it is just filled with memes, jokes, fun facts, interesting crossovers, large variety of things. And sometimes it has to do with music. So what would be your life's theme song?
My life's theme song. Wow, that's probably one of the greatest questions.
Like you said, go with your first instinct.
Yeah. The first one I was thinking of is a song that I wrote on my Not TV album called A Ne'er-do-well, which is a person who, it's a French word, it's an underdog term about a person who's maybe not necessarily seen as being capable of completely getting there, but ultimately succeeds. However many obstacles that are thrown upon me, it's almost like I got a lightsaber, and I'm kind of like, oh, got that one, no, down there, I'm up here, like
right,
different direction, like unstoppable. You can be, a fine, like a diamond, a rough diamond in the works, but you're the one who has to get yourself there. And your parents can do, they can set you up before you leave the nest, and they can give you great advice, and you meet people along the way, and sometimes you get off your path, but it's up to you to get back on your path. And that comes from not being afraid to be alone, to thine own self be true. How you treat others is a very specific reflection on who you are, and you get what you give. You give what you get. That's just, I'm getting very philosophical now, but that song comes to mind, and also Frank Sinatra's "I Did It My Way."
Good choices. Yeah,
it's a classic song, because it can be sang by a woman or a man, really, right. And I think ultimately, like when you take your last breath, you want to know that you kind of did do it your way, because if, like, for example, I'm in the people pleasing business. So for quite a number of years before I really fully grew up into my 20s and had my son, and when I was like 26, I had ostensibly pleased directors and writers and other actors and makeup artists, and yes sir, no sir. But when I finally got the opportunity to be pregnant, give my body up for 9 months, and reflect on who I am today without actually having a job every other month or whatever, I actually grew tremendously, and it changed me, and it really gave me a different sense of maturity that I think I hadn't had before. And then I did start to do things my way. I had more of an insight as to who I really was, aside from what role that I might be playing,
Excellent.
It's fun how being a mom can suddenly change your outlook on everything, including yourself. Absolutely.
And I think, and I think you'll agree with me on this, is that unconditional love is a different kind of love than, it's like if you have a dog or a cat, having a child, that the love is so deep that you, as a parent, it's almost like our children don't belong to us. They belong to the world. That's what our job is, to rear them, and then they leave the nest, and that can be it can be a sad thing, or it can be a joyous thing, because they always come back. And we're prepping them to get ready to be the best that they can be, so they can kind of fly and and be free and have this joie de vivre in their life, you know, with just great morals and, you know, just embedded in them. And so that infrastructure is our job as a parent to provide for them. But unconditional love I really experienced for the first time with my son, and I'm glad that it happened in my 20s because it gave me a different message in terms of who I was and what I had to give, not only to my son, but in my field and to myself. You know, it's a very giving, just being a mother, it's being a parent is nothing I can compare it to. It's a very deep part of procreation, you know, in life.
So do you feel, just as a personal question, do you feel like in the process of becoming a mom, I mean, you mentioned giving up your body for 9 months to grow this child.
Happily.
It's the best.
I was like, just give me a turkey burger with cheese. You know, I'll take 2 and 2 French fries.
Right.
Milkshake. No problem. Okay. I don't have to skip a meal right now. It was really a joy and yeah, so.
But do you think in that giving up your body and then learning who you are as a parent, did you have that stage where you go from them being completely dependent on you to then like that transition into starting to be kids where you suddenly have more free time and you have to then relearn who you are outside of being a mom? That is like the weirdest transition.
That is the weirdest transition. And I completely, especially, you know, you're a very young woman, and so you have a 4-year-old. So that's what's so great about being a mom. And also being a mom is great at any age, you know, it's just the experience of it. But what I really discovered in my 20s is exactly what you're talking about, is that I hadn't really, it's like we grew up together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was so special to me because it just, in a way, it just, you have a closer relationship because you have you've just been through, you're so close, you know, you're closer in age and you're also closer just in terms of things that you're still able to do together. Yeah. Finding out who I was through him, he made me a better person because of the love, the unconditional love that I have for him. I will always strive to be the best I can, even if I think, oh, I'm doing pretty good right here. You know, no, there's always more because they're always watching us, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter, you know, if you're 90. Sure. They're always, you know, we're always going to watch our parents because we're holding a candle to them. You know, they're our idols, really. They're on a pillar. And so if there's really the love and the respect that there should be with child and parent, it's a really cool thing. You know, they bring us we bring them into the world, and they one would hope say goodbye to us as we transition. Not to be too morbid, but you know.
No, I love that.
It's the facts of life. It's the way it works.
The facts of life.
Exactly. All right, Olivia, we're at a point in our show where we like to take our guests through a little bit of a quiz.
Okay.
And so this is a quiz about Olivia Diabo, and we call this quiz Olivia and Out. So it's 4 questions. Each question is multiple choice. Okay. Now, if you get 3 of the 4 questions correct, we would like to send you the book that
Kathleen.
one of these two is going. There it is. Thank you, Kathleen. That Kathleen is holding up. It's called Custodians of the Cosmos.
I'm still here.
Oh, right on. I love it. I love it already. Is it like science fiction, cosmos, and like? Yeah.
So it's written about a young man who wanted to join something quite like Starfleet, but not Starfleet because, you know, legal reasons. And so he washes out, he rejoins, and to boldly clean up after those who had boldly just went. He's a custodian. So, yeah, we'd like to send you that book.
Oh, thank you. That's so tack from Invader Zim, except she wasn't a custodian. She was a janitor. And that's why she was so...
That's true.
There you go.
I mean, I'm not aware, but she was very angry.
There you go. So if you get 3 of those questions correct, we'll send you that book, okay?
Okay, all right.
All right. Now, if you get 2 or less questions correct, Nick mentioned our Facebook group earlier that's just full of memes. We'd like to take your picture, make a meme out of you, and put you into our Facebook group.
I'd love to be a meme.
Yeah, we call it our fun sequence.
Okay.
All right. So
Yes.
if you agree to those terms, Nick will start asking questions.
Okay. Hopefully, I will. I'll do my best. Let's go.
There you go.
What is mentioned at nearly every dinner scene of the Wonder Years? Is it A, a pot of coffee, B, a loaf of bread, or C, some kind of potato dish?
Some kind of potato dish.
That is correct.
Makes sense to me. I'm pretty sure potatoes are a daily occurrence.
I'm so relieved.
There you go.
All right, question number 2. Luminara Unduli's only line in The Rise of Skywalker is A, avoid the dark, you're a Skywalker. B, the light, find the light, Rey. Or C, you can bring balance to the Force.
B.
That is correct.
The light. Find the light. Every actor has to find their light. It's Luminara. I love her. She's so. I remember. I'm not meaning to name drop, but when I was in the Star Wars Santa Monica Studios with the director, and he was literally like whispering in my ear, like each line to say, and I just and he's like, okay, try a different version, do it, and it just kept evolving and escalating, and it was just such a magical experience. So yes, I remember that line like it was, and it wasn't that long ago, maybe 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, not that long for sure.
Yeah.
All right, you're 2 for 2.
Which was your major film debut? Was it Bolero, Conan the Destroyer, or Not My Kid?
Conan the Destroyer.
That is correct.
All right, well, that gets you the book.
Oh.
Awesome.
And question number 4 for funsies.
Funsies.
In Batman Beyond, your character, 10,
Yes.
was a part of what gang? Joker's Jesters, Royal Pain, or Royal Flush?
Royal Flush.
That is correct.
4 for 4.
To go. So yes, we will send you a copy of this fantastic
Our custodians of the cosmos. I
There you
love
go.
it. I love it.
You already told me that you love cheese, and there is a lot of cheese in this
Cheese, love it. Like space cheese.
book. They're called Lactarians. It's a cheese-based religion.
Okay. I'll be sure to look up that chapter and think of you.
There you go.
Like, because you have taco on your cheese on your taco.
Yes.
So there's a correlation there.
I would love that anytime somebody has cheese that they think of me. Because I
Okay.
know that, at least for those who are not lactose intolerant, that will be a happy thought.
Exactly.
There
And
could be
we
much
all have
worse reasons for somebody to think of you. So
That's true.
Olivia, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where could our listeners go to find out more about your music and other things that you have worked on?
Well, so my website is www.oliviadarbo.net. I have you can sort of stay updated on anything that I have coming out and look at reels and comedy reels. Keep updated on my music. I'm doing a new album right now, so you can get my other album on cdbaby.com. And my new one coming out is like a prog rock kind of folk funk Brit rock album, which is going to be amazing. I'm on Twitter, Olivia Darbo at Twitter, and Olivia Darbo on Instagram. So that's where you can find me. And I love my fans, and I quite interactive apparently with my fans. I love the give and take of answering questions, and just it's kind of like becoming like a real family. So it's cool. I'm loving it.
now, other than Monroe Pop's coming up next month on September 16th and 17th, you have another convention you'll be working at shortly as well. Which one is that?
That would be the Star Trek Creation Show, which is in Las Vegas, and that's coming up on the 26th through the 25th through the 27th.
Okay.
That's when I'll be there.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll make sure all those notes go down below and we'll put those in our show description so our listeners can check those out. We also want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help us to continue to grow and to get more amazing guests like Olivia Diabo here to have these conversations and these moments for us all to laugh at, these funny moments for us to enjoy. So please subscribe. It helps out more than we can ever really tell you. And please make sure that if you have a chance, go see her in Las Vegas at the Star Trek convention. Also, Monroe Pops here in Michigan, just outside of Detroit, Michigan, in Monroe, on September 16th and 17th. And check out Olivia's work on her website as well and her social media. You will not be disappointed by that. But if for whatever reason you were disappointed with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That's Melanie Walker, or as she is better known, 10 of the Royal Flush Gang. Sure, she's part of a crime family, but this supervillain isn't against brandishing her own form of justice. Her and the other members of the Royal Flush Gang, if she chooses to use them, will need 3 copies of your complaint. 1 for Melanie, 1 for bragging rights, and 1 just in case Batman takes it away from them. But rest assured, your complaint will be handled and the offending party will be walking funny, or at least need a good pair of crutches.
Love it. You guys are so original.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for being on the show with us, Olivia.
It's my
This has been a lot of fun.
pleasure. It's been so much fun. I love you guys. I think you're great. And I'm going to see you in Monroe, right?
You will.
Absolutely. Yes,
Awesome.
we'll be there.
Awesome. Well, let's come up to the table, and if I'm doing a panel, I think I may be. Most definitely we have to.
Well, we're
get
doing a lot of the
together.
panels there as well too. So,
Okay.
so yeah,
We'll be hanging
we'll
out in
make
the
sure that
panel
we
room a lot.
that we wave.
All right. Well, I'll just tag along like a groupie. How's that?
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the funny science fiction for the FSF Popcast. Goodbye.
Ciao.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Popcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSFPopcast, or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.